Welcome to Ocean Stories, a podcast about the people doing incredible things in, on, and around our oceans. I'm your host, Lydia Carey, and I believe in the power of stories to save our seas. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I am super happy to be chatting to you again and for us to be back up and running and back in business. You might be wondering, what has been going on these past few weeks? Well, lots of exciting stuff. I have genuinely released putting out episodes every Tuesday. Every time Tuesday comes around, I actually get anxious because I just want to be putting an episode out. And so I'm really excited to be doing that again. But there were some things I had to take care of before we could start posting again. For one, I'm coming to you live from the floor in my room in Mallorca, Spain. It is the hottest day of a heat wave that we're experiencing right now, and it's really hot, let me tell you, which actually does influence the podcast because I can't have any fans running when I record, which means I'm sitting here. It's very warm, it's very hot. That's just one of the things that works against me in recent days with this podcast. Let me tell you, it's been a journey and a half. Redoing the intro, the outro, the logo, the cover photo, all of these things seem so simple, but I've hit so many hiccups and little bumps in the road that have delayed and delayed and delayed me that I took way longer of a break than I had wanted to, but that's okay because now everything's beautiful. And that's the thing with projects. Sometimes they don't go your way and you have to figure it out and deal with it, and it's fine. But anyways, back to the topic at hand. I hope you've been having an amazing summer, swimming, going to the beach, going to the ocean, going to the lake, going to the river, your water of choice. I hope you've been loving it and enjoying it. Welcome to the new series that we're doing right now, which is How to Ocean Edition. My vision for this series is really to bring educational, instructional content. Obviously, there will still be a major interview element to each episode to learn about that person's history, their journey, how they're connected to the sea, but there will also be more tangible, valuable information for people to take away from each episode so that if you're interested in a specific topic, you should be able to listen to the one that you want to learn more about and walk away feeling inspired, educated, having learned something new about that topic. I wanted the first episode in How to Ocean Edition to be about surfing, one, because that seems to be the most requested topic that we deep dive into, but also because surfing is getting so much press because of the Olympics. This is only the second time that surfing is in the Olympics. The first time was in 2021 in the Tokyo Olympics, and I have just seen so much coverage of this. Before it even started, the number one form of coverage I saw was about how the Chopu wave break is incredibly dangerous because the water is so shallow and it's right on top of a coral reef. Of course, if you know the lore and the history of Ocean Stories, then you know that our second episode ever was with Tariva David. He is a pro surfer who is from Tahiti. He told us all about Chopu and the history of surfing there and what the people were feeling and thinking about the Olympics coming and building this judging tower on top of the coral reef. There were all of these demonstrations. You might have seen it in the news. You might have listened to the Ocean Stories episode. And the Olympic Organizing Committee did end up compromising with some of the requests that the people were making to make the aluminum tower that they built a lot smaller and a lot less invasive to the reef. However, we know how these things tend to go, and the reef still got damaged by one of the barges that they had to use to bring in the materials. Of course, they still drilled into the reef because this wave break, if you haven't seen it, look up a photo. It's genuinely right on top of the most stunning coral reef you've ever seen. So I think for there to be any sort of human activity there, for them to build anything there, it was going to inevitably cause some harm. I'm really honestly surprised at how quickly the media seems to have completely jumped away from that topic and jumped right onto how dangerous and how captivating the surfing competition will be because of the threat of injury, which I will admit is an intriguing topic. Now, what you might have seen is this crazy, crazy photo of a Brazilian surfer named Gabriel Medina. He is now in this photo that I feel like will be famous forever, where he's literally levitating in midair after catching a wave. It's an amazing photo. It will probably be one of the most famous photos to come out of the Olympics this year because he just looks like he's flying. So this photo, combined with the environmental concerns that the Olympics posed on the Tahitian Islands, have brought a lot of attention to the surfing at this year's Olympics. On top of all of this, I read a New York Times article. Yes, I read it. I found it on Instagram, but I followed the link and I have a New York Times subscription. Okay, so I actually read this one that talked about how France did nuclear testing on one of the islands in French Polynesia, and that radiation from the nuclear testing obviously has affected the people in Tahiti. This radiation cloud made Chopu and the surrounding area a cancer hotspot and has had tons of health consequences for the communities there. While obviously this is a horrific outcome of something that probably should have never happened in the first place, I am a little bit happy that the Olympics are bringing press coverage to an issue that I think a lot of people would have never known about, me included. I've seen a lot more headlines this year than ever before about the Olympics and their environmental impact and how unsustainable they are. I'm sure that the Olympics has positive impacts on the global community, but I am glad that these issues are being highlighted because obviously they're super important. Since I'm seeing surfing everywhere I turn this week, I decided that the first episode of How to Ocean Edition should be surfing related. In today's episode, we're talking about how to surf as a beginner with content creator Jade Darmaswanga. I wanted to talk to Jade because she's not a pro surfer yet, and she went from beginner to intermediate in a relatively quick time and has documented her entire surfing journey online through her YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram accounts. She's been a content creator for quite a while, so she has a ton of content on how to surf as a beginner. Her most recent video doc, which is how I found her, is about how she went from complete beginner surfer, not even knowing how to swim, to surfing pipeline, which is a famous surf break in Hawaii. In this episode, I pick her brain about what's helped her most in learning to surf, both mentally and physically. Plus, we chat about moving past fear and doubt in both surfing and in content creation. Hope you enjoy and see you soon for more how-tos.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited.
I'm super happy to talk to you because I know you've had quite the journey from beginner to where you are now. So I was hoping you could unpack a little bit about that today. But before we get to that, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited. I get to go to Hawaii tomorrow. So I'm going to surf a lot of waves. I'm not going to surf pipeline, but I'll surf other waves in the South Shore because right now the North Shore is not getting too much swell.
Wow, I caught you just in time then.
I know. I was like, if I were to dip, I would have been fully in island mode, not in the content world. So I'm happy. I'm happy that we're here.
Yeah, I'm happy you made the time. So tell me, how did you get into surfing? How did this whole thing start for you?
So I learned to surf because I didn't know how to swim. Like, I didn't know how to swim since I was like a young kid. And one time I actually almost drowned in my little neighborhood river. Like, I remember my friend was like, Jade, I was like 10 years old. Jade, get on your back. Because I couldn't float. I thought she said, get on her back. So I got her back and then I almost drowned her. And that's not funny. But her dad rescued us. It was quite crazy. And ever since then, I just never wanted to go in the ocean. It scared me. But I had huge admiration for the ocean because it's so pretty. So 3 years ago, or like 3.5 years ago, during COVID times, I was like, I'm so bored. Why not learn how to surf? I thought like learning to surf would be a good entry to learn how to swim because I thought the whole point of surfing is not to get off your board. So I didn't even tell my surf instructor that I didn't even know how to surf. I just said, hey, teach me. Or I didn't know how to swim. And he was like freaking out afterwards because I told him, yeah, I actually didn't even know how to like float or swim. He goes, what? But ever since that moment, I took like one little surf lesson in Huntington Beach 3 years ago. It changed my life. I was like, I need to be a surfer. So I just started to go surfing as much as I could. And yeah, ever since then, I've been surfing mostly every day.
That's amazing. So I know that you are from Portland.
Yes, I am from Portland. So I never grew up by a beach. And that's something why I started surfing so late. As in late, I just mean like 20 years old. So not that late, but for a lot of people that is. And my family grew up in like, I grew up in LA, like from 0 to like 15 years old. And the majority of my like high school, middle school was in Portland, but yeah, I didn't grow up by a beach, but I would visit LA sometimes. And that's kind of where I learned.
I know that you're also in the content world a little bit, and maybe before you were living in Southern California, you were doing sort of a different lifestyle. What was it like for you when you moved?
So before I was doing what I do now, which is surfing and making content about surfing, I was doing marketing work. So kind of being a big girl boss. And I did not
Okay.
surf. I didn't even like go outside much. I was just grinding. For some context, my biggest role model from that era was Gary Vaynerchuk. Okay, so you can imagine my sort of attitude towards life. So I didn't really have a lot of balance for fun, and I think the reason why I decided, you know what, I want to pursue full time surfing and full time content around surfing is because I was so burnt out from working, doing agency work, doing marketing. It just wasn't. I don't think I was my true purpose. I feel like I learned a lot, but I don't think it was like as meaningful as I thought. Like selling products online for brands is just not as purposeful as like being in the ocean. So I'm glad I took that jump, but like just for some context, I've been doing content since I was really young. So when people say like, "Oh, how long did it take you to go like full time with surf content?" Like technically it took me like what, 2 or 3 years from the time I started surfing, but like I've been doing it since I was like 10 years old. So it's been over a decade of content. So I do say like my experience has always been like in the social media marketing world, but it's only like just recently, like in the past 2 years, I've been pursuing more surf focused, but it was a long journey. But I think that's why I fell in love with surfing because I really not only love it, but I also get to make content and tell stories about it to other people who also want to do the same thing.
Let's go back to one of the first times that you decided to get in the water with your wetsuit, with your surfboard, not that good of a swimmer. What was that experience like?
It, it was frightening. I will say I was scared because obviously I don't like, okay, one thing I still don't like is the feeling of like seaweed or like things I don't know on the bottom of the ocean. Like I cannot handle. Like if I can touch the bottom, it's fine, but if I don't know what's in the bottom, I don't want that, you know? But also I feel like I was really ignorant. Like back then when I was learning to surf in 2020, 2021, I was just having fun. Like I didn't know anything about like surf culture, like being called a kook. Like I had no knowledge of that. So it was actually really fun and enjoyable, other than a few wipeouts and like getting a little, freaked out by getting hauled down. Like it wasn't bad experience at all. I think it was actually great. It was actually only towards like once I got like 5 or 6 surf lessons and I was on my own, then I realized like, oh wow, this is kind of scary. Like people are really mean out here.
Yeah, honestly, that's something that keeps me from stopping to learn. I get self-conscious and I don't know, I just get afraid of, they're very passionate about the
hmm
rules and about surfing in general. And so as a newbie, it can be kind of intimidating.
I think I'm still scared. Like I can talk about this later because I've been surfing for now 3 years, but every day is scary. So if anyone out there is listening and you have been surfing for a year, 2 or 5, every day is still scary because that's how you grow. You have to push yourself to get better, but every day is still a challenge.
I've seen as of late some of your videos about achieving what seems to be a major life goal of many surfers of surfing at a famous break in Hawaii. And I was curious what you would say were your biggest contributors to that success. Like what do you think made that happen for you?
So, for those who are curious, I wanted, ever since I started to learn to surf, I wanted to learn how to surf in go to pipeline, which is like this crazy barreling wave. In April of this year, I ended up surfing a smaller version. So for like people who are familiar with Hawaiian style waves, I would say it's around 2 feet. So like you measure the back of the wave. To like Californians, it's like head high, but anyways, 2 foot Hawaiian wave. That's what I surf. But even though it's like yeah, I started from a foam board to like surfing at pipeline. It definitely wasn't an easy journey. I think for the first year, I was still on my little foam board, even though I desperately wanted to go on like a hard top board. I just wasn't there yet, you know? My paddling wasn't strong enough. And I actually went to like a surf camp in Portugal, which really helped me grow. Um, and he literally, like the surf coach there, bless his soul, he's a great, great surf coach, but he goes, Jade, like, you just need to work out more. Like, you just need to go to the gym. And I go, oh, like your paddling
You
is not
got
there.
called
And
out.
I got called out. I was like, oh, like I know that my upper body isn't the strongest, but like, wow. I feel so called out. But honestly, like I'm so glad he said that because it is so true. Like most of surfing is paddling, which is the worst. Literally, don't get me started. Paddling is not fun, but it is paddling. And I was just, so essentially from that surf camp, which is last year to today, I was just surfing and paddling my life. Even if I went out and I didn't catch waves, I would call it a success if I could paddle. And so that's my first thing. Learning to paddle properly is the biggest thing that attributed to my success, or just for me completing one of my dreams. Because there's a lot of current, especially in Hawaii. You have to be able to navigate the ocean. And the second thing to that is like, again, even if you can't surf like a big wave, just go out on big days and just watch because you're gonna learn not only where to sit, but like how to read waves. It sounds so cliche when people say like you need to know how to read waves. It's so true because it's not like, especially in Hawaii, like it's not like a wave comes and it breaks at the same spot. Like it does, but when some sets hit and you're like, oh no, I'm on the inside, you're gonna get smashed. So just really knowing how to navigate the ocean is a skill that I didn't even realize took forever to learn, like paddling is something you can learn every day, but like reading and navigating the ocean is something I still am working on 3 years later. So just essentially my tip is just go out even though it's scary and you might not catch anything. I think that's the biggest thing because the thing is you might actually catch some waves. It's just like if you force yourself, you have to catch waves. It makes it like really stressful and makes you feel like a, silly or stupid. So just go out there essentially is my biggest tip.
Yeah, I mean, now you've embraced this surfer lifestyle, you're making content about it. It's really inspiring to someone who, like me, literally, okay, I can swim. I can for sure swim.
Yes.
But the whole surfing thing, like, it's a bit rough. And it's definitely scary, especially the Pacific
Yeah,
Ocean. There's
I
so many
know.
animals, there's so many currents, things to be aware of that it's really inspiring. And one thing that I really liked about your story was when you talked about how it was so frustrating that you were going out every single day and not seeing any progress and feeling like you were really putting in so much work and so much effort, but that you're like, why am I not surfer number one? Like, why am I not the winning surf competitions yet? How did you deal with that? Like, what made you keep going?
Dude, it's funny because it just depends on what month I'm in. Like right now, I feel like I'm making progress. But if you were to ask me last month, I was literally complaining to my boyfriend, to my friends, like, I forgot how to surf, guys. So, okay, to be honest, I still have this feeling of feeling like I'm not making enough progress or frustration. And the biggest tip I got from, again, my surf coach and the person I met in Portugal that taught me at the surf camp is like, there's only two things you can really do if you're frustrated. It's either surf more or rest. Like that's it. Like it's literally like if you're frustrated, try again. And if you keep trying again and you're hitting a wall, just take the day off, go back in, paddle back in. And a rest can be a day, it could be a week. For me, it's really hard not to. I'm like I have a problem. When I want something, I like need it done now. So I could probably take my own advice, but yeah, like sometimes you just need a break. If you're really hitting a wall and you're like not seeing progress, like maybe do something else, like maybe skateboard or hang out with some friends. It's truly about, like I hate it when my surf coach said this, but it's so true. Like it's truly a marathon, not a sprint. Um, and with the surfing more thing, it's like really time in the water. And another thing I will say, depending on what level you're in, like you could have the best board ever, like the magical surfboard, like the best custom firewire, whatever shape board. And if the waves aren't good, you cannot surf well. Like, yes, there are exceptions, okay? If you're in the professional championship tour, you can most likely surf most waves. But like if you're surfing a beach break closeout and you're trying to learn how to turn, like what are you gonna do? Like so also don't be too hard on yourself. And that was something I struggled so hard. I would be surfing really crappy Californian closeout waves and I'd be like, why am I not progressing? But it's also like, girl, you don't live in you don't live in the North Shore. You don't live in places that have consistent breaks. Like California is a great place to learn to surf, but I think if you want to progress, it can be really hard. So long story short, just be really gentle and be understanding that like the waves might not also be serving you that day.
Beautiful advice. Love it. Was there ever a moment where you were like, maybe I'll take up skiing, or maybe I'll take up cross country running? Or was it just always surfing for you?
That's a really good question, and no one's ever asked me that. It's a good question. Why surfing? Well, before surfing, I think my identity was really based in like the marketing, corporate, startup world. And once I got hit, like I really hit a wall there. Like I just felt like I wasn't A, growing in that world, and B, I wasn't as happy. Like I was, as humans, we want identity. Like if we don't have a sense of like who I am, it could be really scary. I think I just found surfing at a time where I was lost. I was lost in life. And yeah, to be honest, surfing just gave me an identity. You know what? Next year might change. I might be a skier. But just at that time, like that 2020, 2021, where I was, I think a lot of people were stuck in COVID. They're like lost a lot of jobs or opportunity. Like I think surfing just kind of arrived when I needed the most. And I just held on to that for my entire, yeah, few years. And I think I still kept it because I genuinely love it. I think surfing to me is fun, but on a deeper level, it just gives me something to A, challenge myself, and B, it gives me an identity that I don't mind, Like if someone asked me who is Jade, I would just say I'm a creator and I'm a surfer. 3 years ago, I would be like, I don't know, I don't know who I am. I was doing marketing, but now I don't know. So I think that's important, and I think it's also good to adapt too. Like maybe, like I said, like I might be a skier one day. Although I don't, I know one thing's for sure, I will not be a skateboarder because that shit hurts. So
You're not
that
into
really
the whole
hurts to
surf
fall.
skate thing?
I surf skate. I don't skateboard. Like dropping in a bowl cannot be me. I think my limbs are too valuable.
It is dangerous.
It is so
You would catch me
dangerous.
out there with the elbow pads, the knee pads, the helmet, everything. And even still, I would be afraid to drop or go onto the runway. What is that thing
Oh my
called?
gosh.
The up
Yeah, the pump.
the pump track, the pump track. Yeah, yeah,
Pump
yeah.
can, dude, pump track can be scary. I go there just for surfing. Obviously, it's a great way to practice how to pump. But the other day, someone literally fell, broke their leg. I saw the bone come out of their ankle. I was like, and this is just surf skate. Like, imagine skateboarding, like X Games style. Like, this is crazy. But anyways, don't be too
And
scared. That girl was not wearing any padding too. I was like, girl, what you doing?
and sometimes that's the risk you take. Injury is a risk that you take to pursue a physical dream.
That is so true.
Hypothetical scenario for you. 10 years down the line, you have achieved surfing all of your dream breaks. You've traveled all around making content, and you decide, I'm going to open up Jade's surf camp for beginners to help people that were once in your shoes. What would it be like? Walk me through the step by step.
Ooh, wow. I have always like wanted to run a surf shop or some sort of surf camp. That would be really fun. If that were to be the case, I would definitely, okay, I feel like personally my surf camp might not be like the common surf camp where, for example, like let's have fun. I think my definition of fun is like there's like something my breath coach says, which is like type one fun, type two, type three. Type one fun is like you feel the fun in the moment. It could be like watching a movie and giggling. Type two fun is like kind of like surfing on a day where you're so uncomfortable, where you're not having fun in the moment, but afterwards, like, you know what? That was kind of fun. I got tossed, but that was fun. And then type three fun is like, I'm scared. Like, I am going to pass out. My fight or flight is always intact. So, my breath coach is always like, you rarely want to be in type three all the time. That's not healthy. Type one, you don't grow, but type two is where you grow. So, my surf camp would be type two, where we're going to have fun, but you might not like it in the beginning. So, for example, if I know someone is a student and I know they've been surfing for a few months and you know what, they're like really uncomfortable. They're like, I feel like I can't surf, let's just say waist high waves. Cause like that can be kind of scary from going from whitewater, like the green wave. I'm going to be like, okay, your goal this session is to fall. Like you're just going to fall. You're not going to catch a wave. Your goal is to eat absolute shit. So I think that would be my approach. It would just be like to embrace failure and to embrace discomfort, but not to the past. You never really want to go to type three. That's not for me safe or fun at all. So I think that would be my technique because there's actually the study. Okay, I'm sorry. This sounds so funny because it's like about rats, but it's a really interesting study. There's a story about these rats. It's called like Japanese dancing mice. And they did like a simulation where they took like three groups of mice and one group was like they did nothing to it. They just fed the mice and then they just let them be. Type 2 mice, they put some sort of, I think they like pressured the mice a little bit, like they made them work out a lot. And then the group 3 mice, they tortured the mice, okay, which we do not consent, but apparently they like electrocuted these mice. Anyways, the type 1 mice, they did not, when they had a race to go find the end of the little trap, the type 1 mice who did nothing failed. They just did not move. The type 3 mice were too traumatized to make any movement. But the type 2 mice, they progressed the most and they finished the race. We are type 2 mice here.
That would be the underlying principles of your camp.
Well, I would never,
Not
I would
torture
never,
and not
no, no
laziness.
torture.
The happy
It's
medium.
definitely not exactly a happy medium. And you know what? I always would like roll my eyes when I would go to surf camps, and I feel like I was not enjoying it. But after I went home, I was like, wow, that was really fun. And yeah, I really feel like I'm really, really grateful that I had good experiences with surf camps that really pushed me, but also weren't too aggressive. Because it's a hard balance to have not only a surf teacher or a surf friend who doesn't make you feel like you're behind, but also encourages you. Like it's a really hard line because I've definitely dealt with, on the flip side, other groups of surfing groups or friends or like surf coaches that just feel like I'm not going anywhere and it's just frustrating. So that could be its own problem.
That makes so much sense. And I think that applies to any sport and really any endeavor where you have a mentor. It can be really hard to find someone that one clicks with you, but also balances criticizing you with positive reinforcement and just finds
Yeah,
whatever happy balance works best for you.
for
Let's talk
sure.
about the physical aspects of Jade's hypothetical surf camp. So you mentioned that you do breath work.
Yeah, so breath training is to increase not only your confidence in the ocean, but to handle really sketchy situations. So, for example, in surfing, the most common is a wipeout. If you're a surfer, you know the feeling you fall in the wave, whether big or small, just being held under and not being able to hit the surface is not fun. So, literally, in breath training, we simulate it, which sounds scary. It's a safe environment, but it is scary. So, the most okay, I hate this one, but it's probably the best for you. So you hold a weight, it's like usually 20, 30, or 40 pounds, depending on your weight. And you have to go from the bottom of the pool, jump up, take one gasp of air, you sink to the bottom, you jump back up, and you do this around 10 times, and it simulates. I know, even describing it gives me the EBGBs, but like the great thing about breath training is you go at your own pace. So if you were like, I'm tapped out, you're done, you can just sit and chill. But I think what's really cool is this is such like I did not like big waves. When I say big wave surfing, I'm talking anything above head high because I'm just a girl, okay? Like I don't because some people consider big waves above 20 feet. I'm like, all right, let's be real here, okay? 5 feet above is big. 5 feet above is huge. So, I hated surfing bigger waves before, but then once I went to breath training, I not only felt like I was safe and a coach could like watch me while I, practice my confidence, but also it's good for anxiety. Like I find that learning how to hold your breath and like really remembering to breathe is so good for day-to-day life. And I'm not joking. If there's anything someone could take away, it's sounds so obvious, but either meditate, breathe, or go to breath training class because breathing is such an amazing tool to not only help your confidence in the ocean, but just general life.
This has inspired me to take some deep breaths. I was breathing over here because sometimes you forget. It's really easy.
It's so easy to not breathe.
What else is there that contributed or still contributes to your journey?
I think who you surf with is really important. If you just surf with people who maybe are better than you, it could be discouraging. Like I'm talking like friends who are like doing airs and you're like, what? I'm still on my phone board. It could be kind of discouraging. You want to find a healthy balance of people who motivate you, so people who are better than you, but also people who they were once in your shoes because I think when you're able to ground yourself in both aspects, people who are better or I'm going to use worse, but not really, right? Who maybe just beginning, it helps you realize your journey. Because if you don't have the balance of those two spectrums, you can easily be like, wow, I'm behind. Or if you just have people who are more in the beginner stage, it's hard to find where you can go. I'm not the best at this. I'm not going to lie. I kind of need to take my own advice because I right now just surf with people. I serve at a break right now in California called Trestles. It's very predominantly pros, and I can feel really discouraged. I'm probably the worst surfer there, which is okay because I signed up for it. But I mix that in with surfing at more chill breaks, like Bolsa Chica, which is like a more chill break in Huntington. So, anyways, what I'm saying is be really cognizant of who you surround yourself with. They say you are the top 5 people you surround yourself with. So just take that into account and apply it to surfing.
I love it. Surround yourself with community.
Surfing is so amazing because I feel like you can start at any age. And even if you're older, like I just see the older you are, the bigger the board you get, and that's it. And it's really customizable to your needs.
Walk me through the emotions that you felt accomplishing medium long-term goal that you had set out when you first started surfing. What did it feel like?
I felt like in the moment, like the word stoked is like 1% of how I actually felt, but that's the best word I have. I was so stoked. Like I was, it's just like, especially pipeline, if there's like, you literally look down, you see like a bunch of sharp reef. Like, and the reef is like 2 feet over water. And even though I didn't go on a pumping day, it's still scary if you were to get smashed on the reef. But I think just being able to trust myself, being like, you know what, I've been surfing for 3 years, it's not a lot of time, but I put in the training. It's such an amazing goal because it's like something where no one can take away from me. And I have some haters who are like, but Jade, it wasn't like that big. And I'm like, okay, screw you guys. I did not grow up in San Clemente, okay? I did not have access to an ocean at 3 years old and like take surf lessons at 4. But yeah, it's just something no one can take away because even though I get comments saying like, whatever, like you're not that good at surfing or like you're a kook, or even just some people are mean and they're like, go back to a longboard, you should not shortboard. I'm like, okay, well, I know I set a goal 3 years ago and I achieved it and that's it. Like, and I feel like that's something where if you're someone who is not even a server, if you have a goal and you achieve it, it not only helps, your confidence, but it gives you the ability to set another goal. And like that is what's super cool. So I'm excited. Like I think surfing has brought me the ability to test my own faith in my own self. And I think that's the biggest tool to grow as a person.
Something that you talk about in your content that I really like is just how difficult it is to be proud of yourself and how you could accomplish
Yeah.
something that you've been trying to do for so long. And it's so easy to just be like, well, I still didn't do that good. Well, it wasn't a pumping day. Well, blah, 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 blah. And how it's really important to just like look back and be like, actually, 3 years ago, I couldn't even swim. So this is kind of a big deal.
So true facts. I know everything I'm saying, by the way, is hard for me to implement because that's just a part of being human. But I think being proud of yourself, I've been implementing it by journaling, like 3 things I'm grateful. Because if you can't be proud of yourself, at least maybe start with more grateful and start with gratitude. And that's been also really helpful. Just be like, I'm so happy I get to be in the ocean. Like that in itself should be something you're stoked about.
Brilliant advice. I love that. And it's truly like a privilege. Like it sounds so stupid. It sounds really cheesy, but it is
I
like something to
know.
be grateful for. Like not everybody gets to do that and have that opportunity. So even if you're wiping out, having the worst day ever, can't paddle out, whatever, you still got to get in the water. You still have your board. You could still sit on the sand and just chill. And there's still a lot of things
It's,
to just
yeah.
be happy about.
Exactly. And I think one thing about learning to surf at an older age, when I say older, I'm just saying anything but like, 3 years old, um, is someone who didn't grow up, someone who like us who maybe started surfing later will feel the more of an appreciation than someone who maybe grew up surfing their entire life. Like you're not gonna see, like you might see it, but most rarely the people who are like groms that are like pro surfers, like they're not gonna be as stoked for like, like a mushy flat 1 foot day, and like we're so stoked because it's the ocean and we never grew up with it. So I think it's just, even though I feel like I am behind in my surfing because I didn't, have that years to catch up. I'm just so grateful that I have it now because I don't think, if you were to grow up with it 24/7, you might not be as grateful and as stoked about it.
A bright side to everything.
Exactly.
Well, thank you for sharing these tidbits and coming on and telling your ocean story. A question that we ask all of our guests is, what's your favorite ocean story or ocean memory?
Ooh, my obviously surfing pipeline is like my favorite personal story, but if I were to look at like my favorite memory, it's when I'm able to surf with my friends during sunset. And it doesn't matter if the waves are good or bad. I mean, it'd be helpful if they were good, but there's just something about like feeling like, especially in the ocean, you lose track of time and the sun's going down. It's like that's so fun. And I can think of so many moments, especially when I used to live in San Luis Obispo, which is like a small little surf town in California. I remember just like every day in the summer we would just surf sunset and we'd be so hungry after, like, bro, it was unfathomable how hungry we were after, but it's just so fun to be in the ocean with my friends. And I think back then it was such more of a bliss because I wasn't thinking about I need to hit pipeline and I need to be a better surfer. It was just like having fun. Um, and as much as like I want to be type 2, encouraging type 2 discomfort and like telling people if you want to get good, you have to be uncomfortable. You need to have fun. Like if it's not fun, it's not going to be worth it. You don't want to progress. It's actually the same way I think about like my content and my success on social media. It's like if I were to not make a single dollar tomorrow from social media, I would still do it because I love telling stories. I love making videos and taking content photos. So you have to find some joy because if you're not, especially surfing, most of it is falling. So you have to find the stoke, you have to find the fun, or else it's not going to be long term and sustainable. So yeah, long story short, if you're ever frustrated with surfing, find a way to have fun with it. And for me, that's like going with friends, sunset, chill waves, nothing too big, nothing too scary, and just vibing. That to me kind of resets sometimes a lot of the fear I do have. And if you are struggling to find friends, which I've been there. I say like if you are lucky enough to grow up by a beach, just show up every morning. You're gonna meet the morning crowd, and whether you surf at a it depends if you're surfing at a more welcoming break, but you're gonna meet people and they're gonna help you out. And that's what happened to me. I surf at this more chill break sometimes, and like I met these amazing group of moms, and now they call me. They're like one of their homies. And that's just been really encouraging because at least seeing a familiar face helps me get more comfortable in the water. So yeah, a bunch of different advice, but long story short, have fun or else it's not going to be sustainable.
Sometimes it's just about taking the expectations off and just enjoying yourself. That is so true. That's true with this podcast. I feel like that's true for lots of endeavors. And something that I really love about your story with surfing and with content that you mentioned earlier is like, it's not like you just woke up one day, went to Hawaii, and you were like, I'm gonna get in the water. It took a lot of days of going surfing every single day to be able to do that. Same thing with content. It's not like, oh yeah, I just like had a video blow up. It took years of putting in the time and the effort and having fun sometimes and sometimes having a horrible time, whatever, to get it to where it is now. So it's not like you just like wake up one day and it's
Yeah.
like I'm a pro and I like that because it's inspiring for me.
Of course, especially with content, although this is not a content growth podcast, I'm just gonna use that example. It's like you're gonna have flop videos or days you fall in the ocean. And the only thing that can get you through those bad days is if you're having fun. Like, think about it like, yeah, like if no matter the result, no matter if you land the trick or you get out there and catch a wave, at least you're having fun in the ocean and that's enough for you to keep going. That's like your motivation. Versus if your motivation was like shredding, that's not fun, you know? So, sounds so cheesy, especially when I used to hear like pro surfers be like, yeah, my biggest advice is to have fun. I'd be like, okay, well, I'm having fun. But yeah, it's so important to find the joy in the little things.
If anybody would like to check out Jade's video about how she went from beginner to surfing at Pipeline and her other videos, we talked mostly about that, but I promise she has other content too, other surfing content. I'll link everything in the show notes. Thank you so much for coming on and for chatting with us.
Thanks, Lydia. Thanks, Ocean Stories. I had such a blast.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Ocean Stories. Don't forget to follow our social media channels for extra content behind the scenes and to connect with our guests. If you like this episode, please leave a review and let us know what you think. See you soon for more Ocean Stories.